You are listening to Personal Development Mastery, the podcast that empowers you with the simple and consistent actions you need to create a life of purpose and fulfillment. This is another snippet of wisdom where I select my favorite, most insightful moments from previous episodes. Today's snippet comes from my conversation with Bob Doyle, who is a featured law of attraction teacher in 𝗩𝗓𝗏, the book and the film 𝗩𝗓𝗏. The snippet is about noticing our autopilot response, and I hope it is as insightful for you as it was for me. Before we dive into the snippet, if you enjoy listening and appreciate what we're doing here, the simple, quick favor I would like to ask of you is to click the subscribe button. Now let's get started.
It's the noticing your autopilot response. Because even the more you do it, like at first you can say, the first time you notice it, you can just say, yep, that's me in autopilot. And you'll probably just go do whatever, you were going to do anyway. But the more you catch yourself and the more you realize and tell yourself this is just wiring, it's going to become some of the emotional connection, the depth of the negative emotional responses in that situation will die off because you're reinforcing over and over that this isn't truth. I don't need to be upset about this. My wiring wants to be upset about this, but I'm not going to go there. And the more that you notice, the more that you're able to be a little bit more, detached from the emotion of it, because you're seeing that, wow, I'm basically just kind of a robot here until I make a conscious choice to be something that overrides this autopilot. Because if you think about the whole concept of free will, it's dicey because we are on autopilot for the most part. Our brain is, even when we think we're making a decision that's free will, what's driving that decision? Why are we making that decision? What series of events happened that made us come to that decision that this is what we want or whatever? And sometimes the decisions that we make, the things that we say that we want, aren't really like as empowering or awesome as they could be. They're just driven by our autopilot wiring. Do you understand what I'm saying? So there's like so many actions and things that we do in our lives that we feel like we're just making a free choice, but we're not really. It's like, given our wiring, this is the only thing we could do. Now, to get true will, that starts with that awareness. And you go, wait a minute, this behavior I'm going to take, I'm being robotic right now. This isn't conscious really. It's unconscious. It feels conscious, but it's not. It's based on this autopilot stuff. When you can override that and supersede that will, that free will that's based on whatever, with what you truly want, like what this future person would want. Now you've got true will. And that's where the magic really happens. That's when you really come to your life and start to design it rather than just sort of, coasting through it based on what comes at you. People can go down such dark roads on autopilot and stay there for days or weeks or years.
Yeah.
And they don't have to. It's just a decision. But the decision feels so counterintuitive to their current wiring that they just can't bring themselves to do it. But that's why you got to have support. You got to have a different set of eyes. You got to have somebody who can see what you can't see. It's imperative because, again, you're looking at the world through your lens. You can't help it but see it the way that it is, that you're programmed to see it. But knowing that there is another way is key. That way you can accept input from the outside and reframe from the outside. Because if you go, this is the truth, you're just going to reject everything that comes to you in the way of, oh yeah, that'd be great, but this is the way it is. Right. But again, you have to be willing to understand how autopilot wired you are and be willing to accept coaching or feedback or, a bigger picture in there, even though your wiring is going to resist it. So again, transformation is a big deal. We're talking about changing yourself intentionally. See, we transform throughout our lives on autopilot and we're not, without even thinking about it. That's a person who's not even in personal development. We're changing our whole lives. What we're about is waking up and going, no, I want rapid change. I want efficiency. I don't want another 40 years to go before I change who I am. If my brain is plastic and I can change it, let's get into it. Let's start it. Let's start this process now And I'm willing to go through the discomfort. I'm willing to listen to my friends and family tell me that I'm crazy or whatever, because the vision I have is so non-negotiably strong and inspiring to me that it doesn't matter what these people say. When you elevate your vision, when you elevate who you're being, there's no guarantee the people around you are going to be on board. In fact, they're probably going to resist. Everybody there is there appropriately based on who you've been being. You start being something else, all bets are off. If we allow ourselves to be guided by their input, their opinions, that's all them. And that's what people need to understand. Even if they're talking about you, that's them. That's their interpretation about you based on their wiring, their experience, their limiting beliefs, and the whole thing. So you got to be very careful about input from the outside if it does not empower you.
Thank you for tuning in. You can listen to the full conversation with Bob Doyle in episode 170. The link is in the show notes. Bob has also contributed 2 of the insights in my book 88 Actionable Insights for Life, which you can get on Amazon. And until next time, stand out, don't fit in,